The presenting sponsor of Moontower Soccer is FVF Law.
To find out what makes FVF a different kind of injury law firm, you can visit fvf.law.
Hello, friends, and welcome to SWOONTOWER Soccer. My name's Mike Cragnola.
And I'm the podcast intro passenger princess of the week, Steph Cragnola.
Congratulations on your star turn with Dad.
Thank you.
Were you nervous?
Oh. I know you're asking that for the sake of the podcast, for me to say it out loud, because it was a rare week where Landon was sick and Mike was busy and they were kind of trying to coordinate. And I very weakly said, if they need someone else, I'll do it.
You got to say that into the microphone a little bit clearer.
Someone will do it. I really didn't want to commit to volunteering. But let them know it's okay if they don't want me. A real...
She did make me say that to them instead of, and so, Steph, you were great on Moontower this week.
Thank you.
The whole time I listened, I was like, I'm so proud. And that's so smart. And what a cool wife I have.
Honestly, you called it out after the fact, but after we talked to the Happy Foot, Sad Foot guys, and Vince was basically like, yeah, if you see a thing, say the thing. And if someone else says the thing, that's tactics, baby. And that really helped because I had seen some things, so I said some things, and Jeremiah did a lot of nodding. And here we are. It felt good. I felt really grateful for getting to be on the Big Boy Show. And
yeah, now it's the Big People Show.
It felt good to know, I guess, that these opponent spotlights have really been paying off in learning things.
Oh, what a great lead in for the end of our episode, where we'll be joined by the Looney Bin podcast out of Minnesota, somewhere in the frozen north. We had Dan and Matt on the show. A great couple of guys, really fun conversation. But before we get there, Steph, we don't have a match, Scott, because we only had an away game. We have sort of fic checks. We've got some match moods. We've got some social media standouts. We have no goals to talk about. But let's get into it.
I want to amend a little bit. This might be getting ahead of ourselves into these social media standouts. It is. You put it on the list. But I'm going to give a shout out for a match Scott of the week to our new boy, Robert Taylor, who has
He's not a match Scott?
Who has a dog.
Oh, sure. Yeah, okay.
And so we know that he's good people.
Yeah. This is definitely jumping into social media standout territory. So let's start with fit checks. You had something that you wanted to talk about. I had something I wanted to talk about. This is the perfect amount of away day fit checks to me.
Yeah.
You go first.
Ilie, the picture of Ilie getting on the bus and he's holding out this stuffed bat. I want to take as a Easter egg signal crumb that we are getting a bat Scott.
Verdissimo falling down in your power rankings.
No, Verdissimo is high up in my power rankings. I love Verdissimo. There is room in my heart for so many mascots, but getting a little guy in a bat suit, like we saw in Valencia.
Yep.
And I tagged Nico on Instagram and said, when?
Sure.
And then I'm just saying, only 2 months later, Ilie shows up to an away match with a little stuffed bat. So
it's all connected.
It's all connected, man.
So what I wanted to talk about is Jean Kolmanich's shoes.
You mean your shoes?
They are very similar to the shoes that I used to have.
They're like the inverse, right?
Yeah. So these are a pair of white and green Nikes that look so good. They're high top, super fashionable, super neat, super cool. Really, anytime one of our players is rocking color matched shoes to our team colors, it just makes me really happy. So,
yeah, Verde that they own,
right?
Because it's not club provided.
Yeah, it wasn't Adidas, and so the league didn't give it to them. You know,
yeah.
I think that's really sick.
Yeah.
Just shows Jean's commitment to the team.
I love it.
You know what I loved?
What?
Some of our match moods, but not all of our match moods.
There
but
were some good moods.
Yeah.
Until there weren't.
Right. So we went to the match in Houston because it is our closest rival. It's our closest away day. We may as well go.
Mm-hmm.
We drove out there. It was a good time. Weather was good. Day was good. We got some great coffee in Brenham, Texas, in the middle of nowhere at this shop called Mezcalito Coffee. Really good. The vibes were good there. We met some strangers who were like, "Oh, are y'all going to Houston? Or like, are Austin playing Houston tonight?" And like, we got to talk to them about sports. It was just a good little vibe in the town. And then we get to the stadium and we're, doing our pregame singing and cheering for the boys. And something that really stood out to me was short-term call-up Antonio Gomez kind of taking it all in as like the horde of traveling fans in the corner there cheered the team on as they were leaving warm-ups. You could really see it like in his face, in his like body language, that he was like, "Oh, this is cool."
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Something that stood out to me, speaking of the youths, was watching the entire second team coming up to the stands to watch. They were like a section over from where the supporters were. And, they all walked up in their matching warm-up suits and they sat and watched the match together. And I just thought that was a really great thing to see them doing.
Yeah, I thought that was really neat to see. We also got a report that Brendan Heinzike had tried to catch the away fans at the pregame bar that we were all at hanging out, but he arrived there just after everyone had left.
Yeah.
And so it was like two ships passing in the night. What would have been a super cool moment for everyone instead becomes a really cool piece of lore for like the three people that happened to be either in the bathroom or something when the group left.
Yeah. You want to get to some less good moods? Because this next one on the list is an oof. It's an oof and an oofy.
It's an oof and an oofy for you.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. I'd love to hear your thoughts. So it just says Mirtu French tuck.
Yeah. So Mirtu Zuni tucked his jersey into the front of his shorts and not the back. And it's like, I appreciate that he wasn't going full dork like Ricky Pooge. Yeah. But like, I think half dork is just as bad. Maybe even worse because he's like not even fully committed. He's like not even committed to being full dork.
Yeah, so I wasn't sure if our love for Queer Eye would weigh out over half dork.
Do I love a French tuck when I'm wearing a kind of oversized t-shirt and jeans? Yes. Does it look great? Yes. Did Tan France change my life with one simple trick? Yes. On Mirto Zuni in a full kit? No.
Okay.
I don't even think Tan France would like that.
Yeah, I think it might have been too wide to be a true French tuck anyway. It wasn't just the like one
couple
hand.
Fingers wide, yeah.
Maybe that was the problem. But I do agree with what I think Mirtu is trying to say here. These jerseys are too baggy.
Okay. Are you sure it's not these jerseys are too long for my torso?
Yes. I think they are too wide. And he's trying to show off that he's actually fit by tucking in and tightening up the front.
Okay.
That's my take on Mirtu's shirt
I would
situation.
be happy to do, this is to the front office. I would be happy to do laundry for the team.
Oh, yeah,
and you can trust
good.
me that I won't put them in the dryer. I'm winking.
She's winking.
I'm winking a lot.
She's really good at making sure it's like half a size smaller than they were before. So like, that's a good call.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's a really good move.
Yeah.
You know, it is not a really good move.
When you kick a ball so hard and with your legs swinging out so wide that you tear your hip flexor.
Yeah. So Danny went down pretty quick in the first half with a clear, like, non-contact, just doing a thing too hard injury. We found out today from Coach Nico Esteves that it is a hip flexor injury and he will be out 4 to 8 weeks.
Yeah.
It's better than it could have been.
Yes.
but it's still not great.
Yeah, it's not great. It just, especially with the congestion in the schedule coming up. And like, I also think we talked about this a little bit on Moon Tower, but it's almost harder when you know their parents. Like, remember when Brad went down?
Yeah.
A couple seasons ago in Houston.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Whew. That was so long ago. But like, all I was thinking was like, oh my gosh, how are Ron and Leanne?
Yeah.
Like, I hope they're okay. I hope they get all of the information that they need because, you know, they weren't there. And seeing Katya and Hector in the stands and then running into Hector in the concourse during halftime, like, and just like seeing how he didn't know anything either. Like, he knew nothing. And like, it's his son. And Jeremiah said it on Moon Tower, like, how do you not just like run down to the field and try to take care of it? But yeah, it just makes some of these injuries hit harder, I think, for the kids that like we know their families and how much they care and like pour into these players.
Yeah. It was good to see him walk off on his own. I think that made a lot of people in the stands feel better.
Mm-hmm.
And hopefully we see Danny getting back to training as soon as possible.
Yes.
I had a note here about Owen Wolf showing a lot of heart out on the field.
I feel like that's an understatement because to me it looked like Owen Wolf had like wolf-manned and like his claws grew to like werewolf size and he like punctured his chest and he like ripped it open until you could literally watch his heart beating out onto the pitch in Houston.
Yeah, he really wanted to win this game. I don't know if somebody said something weird. That is the prevailing house, the whole theory here in Swoon Tower House. I did write this exact note as Owen showing heart because I was really proud for avoiding the super sweaty pun of ShOwen Heart.
You know who else thought that Owen was showing a lot of heart?
Who's that?
Ilie.
I loved Ilie's post-game interview.
Me too. I loved how honest it was and how protective it was and how captainy it was.
Yeah, I think this is the stuff that you bring a guy like Ilie in for.
Mm-hmm.
He sat down after a hard match and was like, yeah, trolley reporter, you're right. It did seem like we didn't have any answers after they scored, and that's really frustrating, but we'll figure it out. And then he was like, wait, are you saying something bad about my son?
How dare you?
How dare you?
Don't speak about my son.
And defended Owen, even though that, like, I think Colby from The Statesman asked a question that was at its heart a good question.
Yes.
Like, hey, Ilie, as the captain, what are the things that you say to keep Owen's spirits up? But
no, because he said like after Owen's mistake, because all Ilie heard was Owen mistake.
What
and
do
he
you
went
say?
Full mom mode.
Yeah.
Keep my son's name out of your mouth.
It was awesome.
Yeah.
What is not awesome is looking ahead to May here. I know you mentioned it just a second ago about Danny being out for 8 weeks. We've got 8, maybe 9 matches in May, depending on if we win our Open Cup match next Wednesday against El Paso. That's a lot of games.
Yeah. Yeah. It's busy and we're looking thin.
Yeah. From a fan perspective, how are you feeling about getting to watch 8, maybe 9 games next month?
I'm already tired. I wake up tired. I go to bed tired. I exist tired. And so adding things to the calendar that are more than once a week just automatically stresses me out.
Yeah. To that point, we may not get a full Swoon Tower opponent preview for every match in May. But we're going to try.
Oh, are we? Does El Paso Locomotive have a podcast?
Oh, I haven't checked about Open Cup opponents. We should see.
Hey, if y'all are listening, will you do us a favor? It's a lot of work to find podcast guests. Just look up the Locomotive. Y'all love trains. Y'all are train people. Just do us a little favor, Oni.
Yeah. If you find an El Paso podcast that you love so much, let us know.
right, you want to go to social media?
Yeah, let's do social media standouts, and then we'll read some ads, and then we'll jump into that opponent preview with the Looney Bin folks.
Yes. All right. So starting off with big week for Brad. He moderated a panel to end gun violence with Gabby Giffords, who, fun fact, my sister did her hair for an event in Boston once.
Oh, wow.
And said she was just the nicest person in the entire world and
Thank
really
God.
cool. Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, again, Brad just absolutely crushing the being a good human game.
And being celebrated for it.
Yeah. So he was nominated for a 40 under 40 award in Austin, as was our very own, or I guess Austin FC's very own, but we love him so much, Trennis. Trennis was nominated as one of the best mentors of 2024. If y'all haven't met Trennis, go to the Match Scott area because he's usually hanging around there with Gisela, who also, if you haven't met, come on, what are you doing?
Right. Honestly, two of my favorite people in the Austin FC universe do so much good work in community outreach. Really, just like such wholehearted people.
Yeah.
We're pulling for Trennis on May 10th when the 40 under 40 awards event happens, I guess. So pulling for both him and Brad to take home some well-deserved hardware.
At least 39 trophies.
That's right. I don't know how this works. They get 39, right? Because that's under 40.
Yeah. Speaking of numbers.
Yeah, nice. Smooth.
During practice recently, the media team asked our boys who would win 100 guys or one gorilla.
Steph, who do you think would win?
I think I'm Team CJ here. Now,
wow.
TJ said the guys, and his point was good because everyone was like, nah, as soon as the gorilla rips the first man's face off, everyone is running. But they're not just any guys. They're like fully committed guys. They gotta rush the gorilla, and they all gotta commit to it. If it's 100 committed guys, the guys win.
Okay. What are the tactics that the guys would have to use to beat the gorilla?
Okay, so we make a circle, and we do distraction, and we some of them are like the people who don't want to live anymore, and they put themselves on the front line to be a snack for the gorilla first. So hey gorilla, eat me. Look how yummy I look. Yeah, a guy is probably a snack for a gorilla.
What do you think gorillas eat?
Human
People,
flesh.
Clearly.
So he's like, oh yeah, eat me gorilla, and they're getting chomp chomp chomp, and then like 50 of the other guys come in from behind, and then like 20 of them hold one arm down and another 10 on each leg and other arm, because gorillas are probably right hand dominant or something.
Hand just super strong.
Yeah. And so then they jump on their back and put them to sleep with the neck hold Andre the Giant and the Princess Bride, and then there are probably weapons involved, and that's where I like to end my hypothesis because I don't really like thinking about the gorilla dying.
Okay. I hear all that, but have you considered one gorilla?
What about him?
Just beating 100 guys.
How do you see that working? Brad was also very certain it would be the gorilla.
Yeah, I just think I just don't believe. Here's my biggest problem, right? There's just so many guys who think they could score a point off Serena Williams, and I think this is a similar I am overestimating my abilities situation where I'm a human. If I had 100 of me, how could I not beat a gorilla? But I still think a gorilla would win.
No, I'm pretty sure 65 of the men would die. But that's good numbers.
Yeah, I guess that still leaves 35.
What about 100 Jane Goodalls versus one gorilla?
I don't think that's fair. The gorilla doesn't stand a chance.
Right.
They'd be lulled to
a sense of security and friendship.
Yeah, and then Jane would just have to slowly choke it out.
No, we didn't say who would the gorilla doesn't have to die in this hypothesis. They just have to be victory.
A bloodthirsty Jane Goodall.
No, Jane Goodall could like
Bent on destruction.
put the gorilla to sleep, and then Jane
Heck
Goodall.
bent on destruction. Excuse me.
All right, let's go to Robert Taylor's. Let's go to Robert Taylor's media availability.
Wow, that was so Boston of you, Robert Taylor.
Robert Taylor.
So yeah,
Bobby Tays.
I think Bobby T's media availability was great because we found out that him and Leo Väisänen are like really good friends, and he put the emphasis on really. So like they were texting before Robert ever like would have come to Austin, and Leo was telling him just nothing but good things about being here.
Well,
so
yeah, they probably have like the
Finn friends.
Scandinavia. Oh, Finn friends is good.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so yeah, he was just super excited to get here. He said in media availability, "Oh, I've got to follow up with him to get some like restaurant recommendations."
Oh boy.
So I think that's really cute. Super
Okay.
excited to have him on the team.
I'm
Steph,
so curious what those restaurant recs are.
it's IKEA.
Gosh. I am excited that he has legs full of anime tattoos.
Yeah, one of his legs is covered in anime tattoos. Like the rest of his body is covered in like traditional tattoos.
Mm-hmm.
And so he looks like all the hardcore kids that I used to like go to shows with, except like the skinny version.
Sure.
Instead, because like there's two versions of hardcore dudes. There's like the big guys and then the skinny guys, and he's one of the skinny guys.
Okay.
What I liked best out of his social media is the pictures of him on a beach in the Bahamas with a whole bunch of pigs.
Uh-huh.
He's just like laying on them, like cuddling them in the ocean with his wife.
He's an animal guy.
Yeah.
We're bringing it up here again. He has a pug.
Well, at least a pug mix.
Yeah.
We don't know.
Heart pug.
Yeah, we'll have to ask.
Yes, we will.
Front office, get us that interview. We found our guy.
Yes.
Honestly, he seems super interesting from his socials. I know a lot of players are like, soccer's my job, and that's the only thing I do. And this guy has pictures of like doing stuff and modeling and being interesting. I think he'd be a cool guy to talk to.
I agree.
All right. The next piece of news that we have here from socials this week is from the Verde Pitch Alliance, which is a coalition made up of Austin FC, 4ATX Foundation, Austin Parks Foundation, and Street Soccer USA. They just committed $2 million to build new public soccer spaces in the city. It's just super cool. I love this side of the club so much.
Mm-hmm.
And on a week where the on the pitch stuff wasn't happening the way we wanted it to, it's so good to see the off the pitch stuff continuing.
Absolutely. I think speaking of that, it was really nice that we didn't get a complete. We've been talking about the vibes and how the vibes have been really good on Instagram. We didn't get a complete setback from that this week, even though the match was frustrating. So in a training video, we had Osman Bukhari and Guilherme Biru just like doing more fake fighting. Biru is like real committed to this boxer bit.
Yeah. If he doesn't come out wearing gloves, like to the Mike Tyson theme music, like
right?
from his like peak, I don't know what we're doing here.
And so it was good to see those vibes. Still, they're not pushing them too hard to like lull us into a false sense of security, but they're still having fun with each other.
Yeah. Speaking of Guilherme Biru, happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Also, happy to us that the birthday posts in 2025 are not dungeon themed. Like the Kendra Scott dungeon is no more, and I'm really glad about it.
Me too. He looked like a regular human boy.
Yeah, doing his school pictures or something. Like, and I'm way more into that than I am the weird, like, the hostage shots.
He still had like a lot of tongue out, but in like a funny way.
Yeah, but like I think his tongue might just be too big for his mouth. My friend Tom is like that.
Poor Tom. Poor Guilherme. Our last note here is that we got a hype video for the 4ATX theme night this weekend.
Yeah, so they're going to be wearing little 4ATX patches on their jerseys this Saturday night as a way to highlight the work that the 4ATX Foundation is doing with Austin youth soccer. And I just think it's so great when we like bring that work to the forefront. I
Mhm.
think 4ATX is such a wonderful part of this club. And shout out to the media team making a hype video that looks like an Austin FC story of the match video for this. The
Yes.
vibe is exactly the same, but with kids.
Kids.
It's
They're so cute.
Oh, it's such a good video. The vibe is so good. Seeing all the players involved as well is just wonderful.
Yeah, I think there's something so this podcast about seeing these players interacting with kids and playing soccer with kids and listening to them. It really drives home the point that these guys a lot of them are dads, a lot of them are kids themselves, and just how real regular humans they are.
Yeah. Great work, everyone. You want to do an ad break?
Let's do an ad break.
Great.
SWOONTOWER Soccer is brought to you by our friends at FVF Law, the official injury lawyers of Austin FC.
FVF is a different kind of personal injury law firm dedicated to community, transparency, and client education. And they have their own podcast called Summary Judgment. Check it out wherever you get your podcasts.
You can go to fvf.law to find out what makes FVF a different kind of injury law firm and why understanding your legal options can dramatically change the outcome of a case. Once again, that's fvf.law.
Our premier sponsor is McGuire Woods Consulting, helping clients in the public affairs space from lobbying at the local, statewide, and federal levels to digital and communications campaigns across the country.
McGuire Woods Consulting has offices in 10 MLS cities, but only advertises on this podcast because they love Austin so much because we're the best team in the world. Contact our friends at McGuire Woods Consulting at www.mwcllc.com for more information. We should have a McGuire Woods Consulting derby.
Oh, against the other 10 MLS
The other
cities?
9 cities, yeah.
That would be fun.
Yeah. Put a pin in it.
Yep.
Let's get to our opponent spotlight for this weekend.
All right. Welcome back, y'all. Coming to us from the recently unthawing great north of Minnesota, we're welcoming Dan, an MLS sicko, and Matt, a new to the game sicko in waiting, from the Looney Bin podcast to talk to us about Minnesota United FC. Thank y'all so much for being on the show.
Happy to
Thank
be
you
here.
guys for having us. Appreciate it.
And real quick, give us just a little intro of each of you and then what your show is about.
So I am the Fully Grown Loon, and we started the Looney Bin podcast. Fully Grown Loon because I've been a soccer fan and playing soccer basically my whole life. And on the sidelines of our son's youth soccer game, met Matt and started explaining the game to him. And this is where the idea for the podcast started. And I'll pass it over to Matt here. Loonlet Matt. Baby Loon Matt.
Baby Loon Matt. I can't live it down anymore. It's on all my social media handles now. Loonlet Matt. Anyway, I was born and raised in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, but really kind of grew up in the traditional NFL household, right? It was Green Bay Packers all the way. I played it through high school. I coached it when I was in the first couple of years of college. That was it, you know. And then all of a sudden we started learning more about the problems that go along with football and the head injuries. And I'm like looking at this through the lens of a dad and thinking, well, I think soccer is a better way to go. And then lo and behold, I sat down next to one of probably the largest soccer nut in the state of Minnesota, and it was Dan. And then he casually said, "Hey, we should do a podcast." I'm like, "Oh yeah, great idea, whatever." And then I think 3 days later, we were meeting with our former producer Jim, and we had one recorded. I was like, "Well, I guess this is happening." And Dan is a PM by trade, and I give him a hard time all the time because he's in PM mode. He's a project manager. Just ideas come out and they happen. I'm the ideas, and just kind of, I forgot I even said that. And he's like, "Yeah, remember that thing?" No, I don't remember that.
Oh, it's in the backlog. Yeah. No, we're getting to it.
We're getting to it. Yeah. The project's in the green status now. We're good.
Yeah.
What we call that here, Matt, because Mike is the same. He also is a project manager. We're the
Are you
the
serious?
Talent.
Yeah.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
There's a pattern,
you and I
Dan.
though, we're the talent We're we're the face of the franchise. We're
The color commentary.
yeah, exactly. The personality hire.
That's it. That's what it is.
Yeah,
And the
we're
It's
shows
really
just the,
boring without us.
The shows
Exactly.
don't work without our agents of chaos.
yeah, we're enablers. That's all it is. And so we kind of have done a lot of scouting across the league to try and find the right shows for our opponent spotlights, and we were so happy to land on y'all because we want to know national MLS coverage can reduce the complexities of a team from the mix that they are into really general takes. And so I want to know, how does national media, their take, compare to the local perspectives on Minnesota United this year?
Thanks for that question, Mike. I mean, I think with Minnesota, one of the things that's a little unique about us, at least at the beginning of the season, is we've been really one-dimensional in our low possession counter-attacking style. Coach Ramsey, in his second year, just can't put Tani Oluwaseyi or Kelvin Yeboah, our forwards, either of them on the bench. So he's gone with two forwards. He's taken a midfielder out of the equation. And for the first 6 games of the year, possession was around 35% for the team. And so I think when the national media has been commenting on Minnesota United, they've actually been spot on. We are giving up the ball easily. When we turn a team over, it's 2-3 incisive passes, trying to break lines, trying to create high value scoring opportunities, and really not caring about possession at all. Over the last 3 games, that's come back around, and I'm sure we'll get into the more recent schedule. But I think the national pundits, because of the one-dimensional aspect of the beginning of the season, have sort of had us figured out. And in some ways, I think the league has as well. And teams have been playing a lower block, forcing us to play in possession to break them down. And we've seen the results with 1 goal in our last 3 games.
Yeah, I was going to say, y'all started off the year really hot, and then your kind of recent form here looks like, 2 wins back to back starting at the end of March. And then we've got 2 draws and now a loss in your most recent game against Vancouver.
I don't see that because I feel like Vancouver matches are just stricken from the record.
Yeah.
It looks to me like your form has been 2 wins and then 2 draws in your last 4 matches.
Yeah, it's crazy. Y'all had a bye week.
Just like us a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, well, the problem was Vancouver did not have many starters in on that game because they were coming off of Miami, and then, so we felt like we had a bit of a chance with them, but they walked right over us, and it was devastating. Dan and I were,
It kind of feels like we're having a conversation with ourselves.
Yeah.
I know we've already talked about some of the mirrors, but this is feeling familiar.
Yeah.
So
well, I've heard of Austin is the Minneapolis of the South.
Have you heard that?
No.
Oh.
No, never.
I mean, it could be. So I grew up in Minnesota.
Oh, really? Whereabouts?
Eden Prairie.
Oh, there you go.
Oh, okay. No. I'm just kidding. Regardless of what city you would have said, that would have been my reaction.
Right. I was going to say, I didn't say Edina. Get real.
Yeah.
It's true.
I actually worked at the technical college in Eden Prairie for 10 years.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. I don't want to plug them because I'm just kidding.
Yeah. We'll bleep it. Don't worry.
Yeah. Thank you.
But I do feel like every time we go back to the cities, like it's such a nice trip, and we love going to Minnesota away games. So I could have believed that Austin was the Minnesota of the South.
Yeah. So I guess outside of the recent goal droughts, it sounds like teams are forcing Minnesota to play with the ball more. And is that what's driving some of that lack of creation in the final third?
Yeah, and I think it's also true to note that Coach Ramsey tried to get 2 strikers onto the field last season and really wasn't able to. So, preseason was all about this 5-3-2. I think what's happened with Robin Lode and Joaquin Pereira, who's sort of a new signing from last summer, as the creative engines of the midfield, they're doing so much defensive work when we're not in possession, really covering the width of the midfield. Will Trapp, sort of ever present, sort of vanilla defensive midfielder, does a great job at what he does. And I think Coach Ramsey's asked him to do the things that he can do, which is cover a lot of ground. But he's not a destroyer and he's not a creative engine. And Robin Lod has had a slow start to this year with zero goal contributions through the first 10 games. Last year, had, I think, 8 goals, 12 assists or something like that. So getting Robin Lode going is a real necessity for the team at this point. And they were rotating Hassani Dotsonin, who had a meniscus injury early in the year as well. So I think thin in the midfield, those guys have been getting a lot of minutes, a lot of miles, covering that ground, and the creativity seems to be just lacking in breaking down a low block. They were, when we had 32% possession, we were creating 3xg. And when we have 49, 50, 51% possession, we have 0.8 xg. We're just not creating chances with the ball this year so far.
And I think one of the most disappointing parts for me is Robin Lode's performance so far. He's been basically he's doing what he can to help out and be the veteran on the team, but he just really hasn't translated anything into, scoreable opportunities, or I don't know. I'm accusing him as the last game as of being a bit flat-footed even out there and not as quick as he used to be, but I don't know. Dan might not share that opinion.
I was gonna say he's 32 now.
He's again, it's a miracle.
How is he even breathing? But
Right.
As someone who really started paying attention to the Western Conference in 2020, when it was announced that Austin would be playing in the West, Robin Lod is like a lifer to me for Minnesota United. And so is this kind of a crossroads moment in his career with the club?
I think he's signed for next year. I think in the right setup, it's just sort of a matter of time with him. I think it's been a slow start in a new system. A 5-3-2 is really not a typical system. And because we haven't had enough of the ball, our wing backs haven't really been that impactful so far. I think the experiment with Bangahuhle Hlongwane on the right side, the South African, had to get that whole name in there.
You just love that you can pronounce it perfectly.
All right.
But he hasn't really been able to get free down that right side. He has had some chances. His expected goals on the year, I think, is 3 or so, but he hasn't put any in. The signing of Julian Gressel went official here this week, and I think the idea there is probably getting Julian Gressel in that right wing back spot. Bongi doesn't provide any service from the right side. He is more of a threat on a ball from the left side that makes its way to the back post, sort of as a late arriving runner. But in terms of actually creating the danger from the right side, I think if you look at sort of where we tilt, we lean left. We have that left-footed center back. Joseph Rosales is a good player from the left wing back position. So everything ends up sliding left for us, but I think Julian Gressel will potentially balance out the team a bit.
Yeah, this is super interesting because we've been having some of these conversations, just like with our center backs, more so of like balancing the pitch, and like we've had some struggles in the past couple of weeks. But who are some other players that we should be looking out for if those pieces do start to connect? You don't expect Gressel to play this weekend, do you? Maybe
Coach
in?
Ramsey in the midweek press availability said he'll dress.
Okay.
So I expect actually that he probably will get some minutes. I think both Austin and Minnesota are preparing for Open Cup. We follow up that Open Cup game with a game against Inter Miami in Minnesota. So that's a little bit of, I'm sure Julian Gressel has sort of circled that one, having not played
Yeah.
a single minute for Inter Miami this entire year.
A little
Um,
heart around the calendar date with
That
like,
mhm,
that
mhm.
game just got a lot more interesting in Minnesota.
Yeah, for sure.
And so I think they'll work him in. If I had to guess, is that he'll get some minutes in Austin. I think they want to
Yeah.
get him out there and start integrating him quickly. I don't think he'll start. That would be a surprise. Um, but the other people to watch out for, I mean, we brought in a U22 Argentine center back, Nicholas Romero. He's a left center back next to Michael Boxall, and he has really great touch. He's sort of broader bodied, wins headers, um, really physical down that left side. He's been impressive. The other U22 we brought in, unfortunately, has a little bit of an ankle injury and sort of working his way back. So you won't see Owen Jen from France. Um, but that's sort of where I like to sort of focus in on him and Joseph Rosales on the left side. Again, sort of, not again, but assuming Joseph Rosales isn't suspended for the allegations that occurred at the end of the Vancouver game, which with the investigation ongoing. So it's possible you'll see Anthony Markinick as a left wing back in his place. But Nicholas Romero has been a pleasant surprise from our winter transfer window as a U22 signing.
Yeah, and you mentioned a name that's going to trigger a lot of Austin fans. Michael Boxall, I'm sure y'all know, outside of Minnesota, not a lot of love for that guy. In Minnesota, I can only imagine that he is like a absolute rock star fan favorite, right?
He is. He's the original Loon.
Yeah.
He joined us. He joined the team summer of 2017 in our inaugural season. So he's the only player to have played every season for Minnesota United and has been with us. I'm curious though, is it a specific event or just because he's sort of a bruiser center back that shuts things down and
Yeah,
has
it's
that
kind
sort
of
of New Zealand scowl?
yeah, it's kind of the collective experience of
Michael, yeah.
Michael Boxall that people tend to get frustrated by, right? He knows when to push. He knows how to do it without the refs necessarily giving him that yellow card.
He
And
is
so
actually quite skillful at that. He was our first interview. We got a player interview with Michael Boxall, and um, when I looked into his numbers professionally, he has one red card in his entire career, 30,000 minutes. He's so towing that line, knowing when I mean, obviously with VAR, it's been obviously much more difficult, but one one red card in that man's long professional career.
amazing.
Yeah, he's entertaining to have to look at on the field. I mean, he's definitely out there stirring the pot as needed and I think, again, this could be my perspective of coming from the NFL, but I think we could afford to be a little bit more physical team. Obviously not to that level, but I think that, having a bruiser isn't a bad deal. Could be part of our Minnesota kind of perspectives on things, but we generally tend to be a little soft, and I'm for a little bit more physicality, and Boxall's the closest we have for that.
yeah, I was gonna
Yeah.
say Boxall is not Minnesota nice.
No, no.
Yeah, and that's one of the questions that we wanted to talk about a little bit was the physicality. And I feel like Austin rides that similar line. If we have a couple guys who can get in it, if the match is physical, they will meet that energy. But on our own, we don't really rise to a super like aggressive level. So do we expect things to be a lot gentler this weekend? Are we gonna be the
bad
baddies?
guys.
How do you see this playing out just with like especially coming off of last week with Vancouver? How do you see them fighting back in physicality?
Yeah, I mean, I think with Romero and Boxall, and depending on who our right center back is, so Carlos Harvey occasionally will slot in there, the Panamanian, and he's a big physical guy too. I don't think we have any players that are the sort of go in a little late to sort of try to get under the skin kind of players. I don't think that's
Mm-mm.
really, I don't see that in anyone really on our team. Probably more of a reactive team when that sort of level is brought to them. But I think part of that is sort of like the hockey having the enforcer. I think like Michael Boxall hanging out back there being like, "Don't touch my guys," is probably a little bit a part of that. But I think this game's going to be two teams that want the other team to have the ball. And so they're just going to be passing it back and forth for 90 minutes.
Yeah, I'm so fascinated with what's going to happen because everything I kind of anticipated a meeting of similar teams, but the more we talk, the more it feels that we're kind of on the same path, the same level. We're close in the standings. We're close on like pretty much how our seasons have gone so far. So, how does Minnesota win this weekend? Is it forcing Austin to have the ball, which we don't want and don't need?
Matt, you got a thought?
Well, I think that it really depends on which team shows up. Is it the team we saw earlier in the season, or is it the performance as of recently? I think this game got a little bit more interesting because I feel like we have something to prove after the Vancouver loss. That it could go either way, and one of our biggest struggles in my opinion this season has been our ability to play as a team and know where the other guy is going to be, and just that's what we saw a lot of with Vancouver is the team is just in sync on the same page, and to date we have not been that. If they figured it out in the last week, then we'll see what happens.
Minnesota, just from sort of an odd stat perspective here, we have only been down for like 50 total minutes this year. So I think, and I sort
Wow.
of think until the team proves otherwise, the first goal is sort of key in a game like this, right? Because whoever gets that first goal, both of our teams are skilled at playing a low defensive block. And so that first goal sets up either of our teams to really do exactly what they excel at. And so we haven't come back from any deficits this year, but we've only been down for in two of the games, our first game of the year and the last game of the year. They haven't proven that they have enough to sort of have sort of a comeback or fight through that adversity yet. So if they do it in Austin, it'll be the first time they've done it this season.
Yeah. We recently ran into last week in Houston a situation where after going down, you could see the whole team like deflated. In the post-game press conference, even they were talking about it, and Ilie Sanchez, our captain, said in Spanish, like, "Yeah, after the first goal, like we didn't have an answer, and we were playing. How did he phrase it? With too much heart, not enough head." Like
Mm.
we needed to keep a cool head, but we couldn't. And so like we just weren't able to get on the same page and we weren't able to find anything. And that made us like push harder and harder for a goal that just couldn't come. And so I think that might be the like one of the most astute observations that we've had on the show this year. So thanks for that.
Yeah.
Makes me nervous.
Yeah. I think both ways though,
Yeah,
right? Like
So what is the current local narrative for Minnesota? Like how are the fans feeling about this season? Because by like on paper, it looks really good from the outside.
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone's really happy with Coach Ramsey. Really, everyone's fairly happy with the work Khaled El Ahmad is doing in bringing in younger players, getting a younger team out there. Fans see this team as a high floor team, right? Like a team that, if things go basically according to plan, is a very solid playoff team, probably in that shout for a home playoff first round series. It's the ceiling that's the question mark. So I've sort of been imagining being John Malkovich and the half floor. I think the half floor is sort of Minnesota United. Like the floor is high, but the ceiling's sort of coming down on us too. And what is Julian Gressel going to be that ceiling raiser? I don't know. I think honestly, a summer transfer for a midfielder, a true number six that can control the pace of the game and unlock Robin Lode and Joaquin Pereira Hassani Dotson if he comes back, and our U22 Owen Jen, like someone who can really lock down the middle of the field would be a ceiling raiser. I think the local narrative is that we need something like that in order to really be competing for trophies, but that we're an entertaining team, um, a defensively sound team, a well-coached team, a team that's going to be in most games. Um, and it's really sort of figuring out what's gonna allow us to sort of reach that upper echelon of MLS that we've really never ever been at in our what 8 years, 9 years of existence.
And I
Yeah.
think, Mike, to your point, that on paper we look really good, but I don't find draws real satisfying as a fan to watch, and especially when there's chances that we've blown major leads, and it's just it's still not, it doesn't make me feel good as a fan and a supporter that we can make it through the season and be a playoff contender, when there's a lot of draws and those types of things. It's not fun soccer.
Yeah. That's kind of the heart of that, right? Like, yeah, sure, we're in third, but we have a negative goal differential, and we have scored 7 goals in 10 matches. People are starting to get restless about it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm excited for this weekend. I am excited to see both of our new Miami players maybe have some minutes together.
Yeah, Robert
I'm ex-
Taylor.
Yeah,
Right.
2 first
Yeah.
names.
There you
I'm
go.
excited.
Red flag.
I'm excited to see who is going to dominate possession and click into an earlier season of actually being able to score some goals. I am excited to see whose midfield starts to connect and score some goals. I am excited. Like the
Good
list
stuff.
goes on.
The parallels
Yeah.
are incredible between these two teams for this match.
Do
What?
you guys, can I ask you a question? I'm
Yeah.
Yeah.
wondering, do you think that Nico Estevez is going to rotate it all to prioritize US Open Cup here? Because I think the US Open Cup is probably the most attainable trophy for a team like Minnesota United, especially with the way they set it up this year, because a lot of the
5
uh,
games, right?
yep, and the CONCACAF Champions Cup teams are not in it. A lot of the upper echelon teams are not in it. Um, I'm curious to see if Coach Ramsey will rotate, and you might see a few names that I didn't talk about today for Minnesota United. Do you think Austin will rotate?
We have some forced rotation. Just Danny Pereira, one of our midfielders, is out with an injury. And so we are going to see some rotation, and I don't know what that looks like. Last week, Brendan Hines-Ike, one of our center backs, was out on double yellow. Stupidest double yellow I've ever seen in my life.
Well, we got to see it because we were in the stadium, but if you watch the match, you don't get to because Apple TV was showing a highlight of someone's face.
Oh,
Perfect.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's on brand.
Yeah.
But so last week in Houston, we had some factors that will force some rotation this week. I don't know beyond that. I think we're gonna see some of our younger players coming in as subs towards the end, maybe for those Open Cup minutes. But Mike, what do you think?
Yeah, I think we have 8 games in May. And so I am expecting, if it doesn't start this first match, it will certainly pick up a lot in the middle of the month.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of hope that we play this one really hard, because it sounds like an opportunity to get 3 points at home, and then we can rotate against Cincinnati away, or like some of
Yeah.
these future matches where maybe getting a draw is more acceptable. Because if it doesn't happen at home, it doesn't break our hearts.
Right. As
And
much.
so, yeah, exactly. And so that's kind of looking at the schedule. I would hope that Cincy match is like prime, uh, prime rotation, and maybe the return leg in Minnesota, at the end of the month. And so, but Nico has talked a lot in press conferences about the need to be mindful of people's minutes. Ilie Sanchez, one of our Newer signings from the offseason is 34 now. And if Robin Lod is a superhero at 32, what does that make Ilya being able to survive, right? And so I think we're going to start seeing maybe more than we are prepared for, certainly this month.
Cool. And I think, I know we're running up on time here, but we would be remiss if we didn't pitch our idea, Dan, for the I-35 Cup.
It's true. So Loonlet, Matt, and I, we did a road trip recently. We did go to the away game at Sporting Kansas City where we had the 3-0 lead that we lost and tied 3-3.
What a game.
It was snowing.
Wow, that was
What a game.
such a
Orange
crazy
ball
game.
game and real Matt, like as a newer United MLS fan, orange ball game is like you can cross that off of every bingo card.
Well, it reminded me of playing football in high school in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, where we got 300 inches of snow a year, but it was just chaos. And I was so angry to go from Minnesota to go freeze my, what off in Kansas City with it snowing sideways. And they're like, it was 75 degrees yesterday. I'm like, I don't. Anyway. So we were, of course, we had a lot of windshield time, and that's when things can go off the rails for us. But
yeah,
we need an I-35 Cup for SKC, Minnesota, Austin, Dallas. It's the whole all right on I-35, and it starts here in Minnesota.
Yeah.
I love that. We can skip Dallas.
Yeah,
take one Texas
That's
team.
so funny because that was the one.
We wanted to skip Dallas. We did want to skip Dallas.
Please, it's not even in Dallas. It's in Frisco, which is 45 minutes outside of Dallas. It's not even on I-35.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
You got to take a toll road to get there.
No, but I love this too because For the Glory KC is a podcast that has Chad and Sheena, and they are a married couple. And Chad is a sicko, and Sheena is the more casual take on things. So I feel like we're really
God, we could do that. We could do this.
Well, we have to clarify that Dan and I are not a couple, but
not yet.
Not yet.
But
our wives accuse us of it though.
Yeah, your wife wonders why I'm always over at the house. That's
down in the guest bedroom with the lights off.
But yeah, they're perfect vibes because we all kind of have that like podcast that we are talking tactics, we are talking soccer, but also we're talking all the other stuff that people are actually I know people are interested in tactics, but the other stuff that people are interested in.
This is the beginning of something beautiful. I can feel it, Dan.
Yeah, we're going to make the I-35 Cup. It'll have to be like what is y'all's like roadside convenience store?
Ooh,
like
that's a tough one because we're,
you know what I mean?
We're in, well, we have the quick trips, but it's not in our holiday gas stations are switching names now, so it's kind of big to do. So, maybe Culver's. Can we go to Culver's, like a restaurant?
Culver's.
Yeah.
So I'm just thinking like we could get something from Buc-ee's. You know what I mean? And since it's a road trip themed cup, we can figure this out. We'll take this offline. The listeners don't need to hear us blue sky in this. Thank y'all so much for being here. Can you tell people where they can find you to get more of the Looney Bin podcast?
Yeah, you can find us on Blue Sky, Looney Bin Podcast. You can find us on X, though we are less active there. We're starting
everybody's face when
right.
We have to mention Twitter, like
right. We are starting a YouTube. We have Instagram. You can find me personally at Oy Vey to You on Blue Sky, and I think Matt is what, Loonlit or MN Loonlit these days,
something like that. Yeah, or just the loonybinpod.com.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Thank you guys so much for having us.
Yeah, this was excellent. This was awesome. Thanks, guys.
All right. Thank you once again to Dan and Matt from the Looney Bin podcast. Steph, I think the I-35 Cup has legs.
I am so excited for this idea.
I think it's brilliant. If Austinites are taking a road trip, they're stopping at Buc-ee's, right? So like our contribution to this cup has to be Buc-ee's related.
Okay.
Should it be a stuffed animal? Should it be beaver nuggets? Should it be just one of those gigantic cups? Like, listeners, let us know.
Yeah, what's your favorite Buc-ee's product?
Yeah.
What's the most Buc-ee's thing?
And Steph, let me know, who's the man of your jersey?
This week, it is our Lord and Savior, Ilie Sanchez.
Amen.
He is just he is pulling this team together. You know, he says that Owen is carrying this team on his shoulders, and I love that he's saying it, even if it's not true, because Ilie is carrying the energy of this team and the community around it. They're walking his path, and I love having him here.
That's right. All right. If you like this show, rate, review, and subscribe. Give us 5 stars everywhere. Tell your friends. Tell your parents.
Tell your enemies.
That's right. We will see you next time.
We love you.
Bye.
Bye.
I will marry Chewy's.
Yeah.
Because they love Chew Boom Boom sauce.